Hello there, old and new friends. It's your friendly neighborhood sunshine squirrel. Welcome back to the channel where we are living life in the sun. It is now my favorite time of the year, and that is spring. I love this new weather. I love the warmth. It just feels so light and crisp, and flowers are blooming. It's gorgeous outside right now. And I know for a lot of you, it's the perfect time for you to actually visit the Disney parks. And so I wanted to share with you guys a couple of tips and tricks for your upcoming Disney trip to the parks during this very, very busy time. So the first tip that we're going to go over is go into the parks either really early or really late. Now I know for some of you out there, you're thinking, hello, it's spring break, it's my time to sleep in. But believe it or not, the early bird does in fact catch the worm. And when it comes to the Disney parks, a great tool to use to your advantage is to get at the parks right at opening. If you are staying at one of the deluxe resorts, take advantage of the early morning hours. Currently, it's a half an hour before the park opens that you are allowed early entry. That 30 minutes may not seem like much, but it can be enough for you to be able to get in line for one of those really popular attractions before the huge rush of everyone else enters the parks. If you're not staying at a deluxe resort, never fret. Just get to the parks early, right at, as we say, rope drop, right when they first open. This will allow you to kind of get a head start once again on those attractions that can be pretty busy and crowded. Also, getting to the parks earlier in the day will help you to kind of beat that heat and that sun that likes to come out in Florida midday to early afternoon. Now, if you're a night owl and you just really don't think that you can get up early, or you have a lot of people in your party and it's a lot of coordination, I completely understand. Try to take advantage of going into the parks later in the evening when a lot of the day crowds have left and gone home. If you also are staying once again at a deluxe resort, there are extended evening hours that Disney does offer for specific dates. They now have included Hollywood Studios as well. Previously it was just Magic Kingdom and Epcot, but Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and now Hollywood Studios all have extended evening hours. Typically they're around somewhere between the 9 to 10 o'clock time where they begin, and it's 2 extra hours in the parks. So definitely if you're staying at a deluxe resort, take advantage of that opportunity. All right, point number 2. So you gotta eat. And when it comes to parks, there are so many amazing dining options, from quick service to signature dining, character, the whole lot. But I'm going to recommend that you choose to take your meal times on the off times. So for example, we typically think of the lunch hour between 12 to 2, 12 to 3. Dinner is typically somewhere between 5 to 8. I would recommend that you would go for your lunch reservations or your quick service lunch as soon as lunch is offered, so right at 11 o'clock. If you're doing dinner, I would recommend doing an early dinner around 4 or 4:30. And this is once again so that you can kind of beat the crowds. So imagine if everyone else is taking lunch or dinner at this specific time, that's going to move people out of the park or out of the lines for the attractions or the shows and into the restaurant. And so that will give you and your family the opportunity to hit those attractions, shows, character meetups when there's less volume of people there. Also, typically if you dine at those restaurants during those times, there's less people there. So especially if you're dining at a character dining spot, it's going to give the characters more time to spend with you and your family and visit your table. Tip number 3, if you are a Showtime parader, you love to catch the parades, you love to see all the different shows, go to the earliest or the first morning show. Typically these aren't as busy because a lot of people once again are rushing to go to those heavy hitter rides, or they may not even be in the parks yet because they got a slow move on the day. So go to the first showing of the parade, go to the first show at the castle. All those times will be very light as far as traffic is concerned, and you're more likely to be able to get a better spot. Tip number 4 is to visit the most popular parks during the weekdays versus the weekend. Now, currently the most popular parks are going to be Hollywood Studios. You have all those amazing attractions in Galaxy's Edge, Rise of the Resistance, Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run. And then the second most popular park right now is going to be Epcot. Epcot right now is having the Flower and Garden Festival. This festival is very popular and liked by a lot of people. And if you are someone that is traveling from out of town, I would highly recommend booking your park reservation days for these two parks during the week. If you book them over the weekend, you're also going to be competing with the local traffic, and even for individuals that may drive up just for a weekend to spend at Disney. So I would highly recommend hitting those sorts of parks when it's going to be less crowded and you're going to be dealing with less of the local and kind of regular traffic. All right, our next tip is going to be to have a game plan for each day and to pick 3 things that are on your must-do list. So I know this may sound kind of weird. I know that there's some of you out there that may be more of a type B personality and you like to just kind of go with the flow. You're very more cavalier. But when it comes to visiting the parks during a high volume time, it's really important to have a game plan and to not just go to the parks with the assumption that, well, we're just going to do what we can, and if we can't, we can't. You're likely to leave feeling disappointed and not accomplishing the different things that you wanted to do. I would recommend maybe the night before kind of talking over with your family, letting each person maybe pick one thing that they really, really want to do in that park, and then doing those things first. And then after that, with what time allows, the crowds allows, then picking up those additional things that you really want to do. Something that we do in my family is that each individual gets to pick one attraction or one ride that is their must-do, and then it's our goal to get through every individual's first choice. And then after we've accomplished everyone's first choice, then we go on for the second and the third. All right, the next tip is going to be to take a midday break. Now, I know this may seem, crazy, and I know that there are some of you out there that are pedal to the metal. We gotta go, we gotta get this done, we gotta boom, boom, boom. I've been there. I've done that. And I'm here to tell you, it does not work. By day 2 or 3, you are going to be so exhausted. I look all the time when I go to the parks, and if I see a family that's been in there from like sun up to sundown, I know it's not going to last for the whole trip. Or if you continue to do that for the trip, you're going to need to take a vacation after your vacation, because you're going to just be physically worn out and exhausted. And at some point, it starts to not be as fun or as enjoyable, and more of just a checklist or a to-do list of we have to get through all these different things. I would highly recommend using the early day method, go in for the parks when they first open for rope drop, and then take a break around lunchtime, go back to your resort, go to the pool, take a shower, watch a movie, maybe participate in some of the recreation or activities around your resort, like the boat rentals, fishing, even just hanging out and just resting. A lot of the Disney resorts have beautiful lobbies, beautiful sitting areas, even volleyball courts, basketball courts, tennis ball, all kind of depends upon where you're staying, but take advantage of that. Maybe even consider stopping over to Disney Springs and doing a little bit of shopping, things like that, and then go back to the parks if you want to later in the evening when some of the day crowds have gone away and you don't have that heat as well that you're competing with. I think one of the hardest parts about visiting the Disney parks during kind of the spring and summer months is that it's a high volume time where you're dealing with a lot of people, but you're also dealing with heat. And when you have a lot of people in the tight spaces and it's hot, it can make the situation really sticky and just kind of gross. So definitely make sure to take a break, especially if you're visiting the parks with young children. Understand that they're going to need their nap time. They're going to need time to be away from everyone else, go back to the room, and just take a quick break. And then the last tip is to consider purchasing Genie Plus or individual Lightning Lane. Now, I know that this option may not be in the budget for all of you out there, but if it is, I would consider it, especially if there are certain attractions that do offer individual Lightning Lane that members in your party really want to experience or ride, such as Flight of Passage in Animal Kingdom or Rise of the Resistance in Hollywood Studios. I would also consider, if you know that you're going to be, let's say, visiting one of these more popular parks like Hollywood Studios or Epcot, on a weekend, maybe consider on those days purchasing Genie Plus, where you'll have access to more attractions than just the one individual lighting lane. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Let me know in the comments below your tips for mastering the parks during this spring break time. If you enjoyed this content, please make sure to drop a like as well as a subscribe. It really only takes a few minutes of your time, but it tremendously helps the channel. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next week. Bye.